10 years. That's how long Harper Vaughn had avoided Silver Lake, the place where her twin brother Owen vanished without a trace. She had been 17, barefoot and screaming on the pier while searchlights swept the dark water, and her mother knelt on the shore sobbing into the lake air. Now, 10 years later, the town hadn't changed. But she had. Harper stood at the edge of the lake, hands stuffed in her worn coat pockets, shoulders tight beneath the gray sky. The early autumn wind carried the sharp scent of pine and something else, memory. She took a slow breath and looked out at the dock. Or rather, what remained of it. The once 50-foot stretch of wood now ended abruptly, 20 feet shorter than it had been. The final planks looked recently torn, not weathered by time. Harper blinked. That wasn't in the news. She would have read about it. Would have gotten the text from her cousin. Something this strange in a place this small always made headlines, but no one had mentioned it. She stepped onto the dock, each creak underfoot a whisper from the past. Every board was a memory. Here, Owen had dared her to jump into freezing water. There, he had handed her a s'more with extra chocolate, his signature grin beneath shaggy curls. And at the very end where it used to end was where he disappeared. She knelt down, brushing away moss from the final plank. Her fingers grazed something cool and metallic partially wedged between two boards. She dug it out and held it up to the gray light. A compass. The glass cracked, the metal tarnished, but unmistakable. Owen's compass. Her chest tightened. It was his. He'd had it the day he vanished. She turned it over in her hands. The needle spun wildly, refusing to settle. No magnetic field nearby could explain that. And then it stopped, pointed directly toward the forest on the lake's edge. Harper stood up slowly. Behind her, a branch cracked. She whirled around. Empty dock. Empty path. Nothing but the wind. Still, she felt it, that unmistakable feeling of being watched, like the woods themselves were holding their breath. She forced herself to move, feet retracing the path to her old house. The Vaughn cottage had sat quiet for years, inherited by Harper after her mother passed. She'd kept it up remotely, sent payments, hired someone to mow and check the plumbing, but had never dared return. Until now. Inside, the scent of lavender and dust. Photos still hung on the wall, her parents. Her and Owen at age 10. Their Halloween costumes 1 year before the disappearance. She stepped into the living room and placed the compass on the mantel next to a dusty frame. The needle spun again, and stopped, pointing toward the hallway. Number, the basement. Her heart pounded in her chest. She hadn't been down there in years. The last time, she'd heard footsteps that weren't hers and the sound of a door slamming when no door had moved. But she followed the compass. Every step down creaked with age and memory. In the musty dark, she flicked on the pull-chain bulb. Boxes of childhood junk lined the walls. Holiday decorations. Camping gear. Then, something new. A shoe. Small. Caked with lake mud. She moved toward it, crouched, and spotted what lay underneath. A photograph. Faded but legible. Owen. On the dock. And behind him a shadow. Too tall to be her. Too thin to be their father. Nothing had cast that shadow. On the back, a scrawl in familiar looping handwriting. It knows. Come find it. Harper stood, breath-catching. The compass in her pocket buzzed softly, metal ticking in rhythm. And in her mind a sound like a whisper in water. Not words, but an invitation. Silver Lake wasn't done with her. And her brother? Maybe he hadn't vanished. Maybe he'd been taken. The old compass hadn't stopped spinning since she left the dock. Harper parked just beyond the tree line near the edge of the lake's nature preserve. The trail ahead led to Parker's cabin, a long-abandoned structure once used by rangers, now half-swallowed by moss and memory. It had been one of Owen's favorite spots where he'd once dared her to sneak candy and camp overnight without telling their parents. She hadn't been back since. The air smelled of wet leaves and cedar. As she walked the narrow path, her boots crushed acorns and snapped twigs. In her coat pocket, the compass pulsed with strange warmth, its needle jerking slightly left, then stopping. At the cabin, the wood siding was warped. Ivy climbed the windows. The front door hung slightly ajar, as though expecting her. Harper hesitated. "Owen?" she whispered, not expecting an answer. But inside, it was warmer than it should have been. A kettle rested on the old wood stove recently used. Dust had been disturbed. Someone had been here. She stepped inside. On the table lay a small black journal, weathered leather, corners soft with age. She opened it. Notes. Drawings. The same shaky handwriting from the photo in her basement. Owens. It watches from beneath. The trees are older than we thought. Heard it whisper again last night. Same voice, same direction northwest shoreline. Her fingers shook. This couldn't be possible. She turned another page more sketches. The dock, the lake, a symbol 3 pine trees under a crescent moon. Footsteps above. She froze. The second floor creaked. Slow. Measured. She quietly reached for a flashlight, clicked it on, and stepped back toward the front door. But before she could move, a figure appeared on the stairs. A man late 40s, weathered, with silver-streaked hair and eyes like a storm front. He didn't flinch at the sight of her. "I was wondering when you'd come," he said. Harper blinked. Who are you?" He looked down at the journal. "You're his sister then. You knew Owen?" she asked, stepping forward. "I did," he said quietly, "and I told him not to listen." Harper's heart dropped. "Listen to what?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he turned and walked back up the stairs. At the top, he looked over his shoulder. "Some things," he said, "should never echo back." Then he vanished into the upper room. A door shut. Harper stared after him, trembling. Her fingers gripped the journal. She turned to the last page. A set of coordinates. A circle around the northwest shore. Beneath it, in bold letters, "It knows who I am." Harper slipped the compass and journal into her backpack. As she climbed onto the cabin porch, the air felt alive. Branches shook overhead, and distant birds called through the pines, though the woods were too quiet now for natural sounds. The coordinates Owen had scribbled pointed northwest along the shoreline, deep into the trees. The full moon hidden behind clouds reflected off the lake, casting silvery shadows between trunks. Harper shivered, as much from nerves as the chilly night. She tightened her coat and turned toward the forest. Deer had trampled a rough game trail. She followed it. Each step into the trees felt like descending into memory itself. The journal listed observations Owen made: water levels, stone markers, tree carvings. After 20 minutes, she reached a break in the tree line. Moonlight glistened off the water. The forest floor here was strangely bare, as though someone or something had swept it clear. And then she saw it. A stone marker half buried in moss, a rough circle carved into granite, just like in Owen's drawing. But beneath it, etched in the damp rock, was a symbol that made her breath catch. The 3 pine trees under a crescent moon. She knelt, tracing the lines. The cold moss left moisture on her fingertips. Heart pounding, she drew her flashlight across the area. Just past the marker was a depression in the earth, like a shallow grave or hidden entry. Slowly, she crouched and brushed away fallen leaves. Her glove snagged on a piece of cloth nuzzled into the soil. She pulled it free. A red flannel sleeve, faded and half buried. It looked ripped but from a shirt, one her brother might have worn. She swallowed, voice low. "Owen?" No answer, but the forest hummed not with animal sound but quiet vibration. Her compass, long dormant, spun suddenly and pointed straight into the woods, not across water. "Not that way," she muttered, but instinct pulled her deeper. Her flashlight beam bounced between trees. Ahead, she saw carvings on bark-crossed lines, symbols she couldn't fully read, but unmistakably intentional. Some coalesced into that same triple pine and moon glyph. "Trail markers?" she whispered, following them. The path twisted and dropped toward the lake again. Sheets of mist hovered over shallow water. She crossed a fallen log, balancing her flashlight over the surface. Then something glinted in its reflection. She crouched down, dark, glassy eyes watching from shallow water. A fish? No, it was a pocket watch. The silver case open and upside down in the mud, the face scratched. She lifted it gently. On the inside cover engraved, "Ovies H.V. 2012. Her head spun. Owen to Harper. A date. The anniversary of his disappearance. She looked around. The trees leaned closer as though observing. The watch clicked a hinge noise. Its hands were frozen at 10:02 p.m. 10 past 2 in the morning, the time her father said Owen was last seen. Her heart pounded. The woods, the lake, they were speaking to her. But how? A soft rustle behind her. Forest steps. Harper stood slowly, holding the watch in one hand, compass in the other. Moonlight filtered through a gap in the canopy. It illuminated something in the water. Not far from the shore, just beneath the mist, was a small rowboat, half sunk, moss-covered. She frowned. It hadn't been there on her drive-in. She didn't remember it on the old pier either. She moved closer. The boat rocked gently. Inside lay a faded duffel bag. She crouched by the gunwale. The watch had been a signal. She reached inside. Gloved fingers closed around cloth dark, wet, familiar, Owen's scarf. The one she remembered him wearing, always wrapped around his neck. Tears blurred her flashlight's beam. The journal's voice echoed in her head. It knows who I am. She swept the inside of the bag. There was a folded piece of paper pinned by a gold-colored pin. She unfolded it, a crude map of the island's inner marshes, with a narrow inlet and a large X marked at the center. Below, in shaky handwriting, "Come back at 2:02 a.m. I'll be watching." Her pulse pounded. The watch's hands blinked back at her. She stood, chest tight. Water lapped softly. The forest whispered its warnings, but she couldn't turn back. Not now. She tucked journal and watch into her coat, took a deep breath and headed toward where the marsh trail disappeared into darkness, following Owen's ghost. Harper stood at the water's edge, heart thundering. Nearby, reeds whispered in the breeze. She checked her watch, 2:00 a.m. Moonlight fractured on the marsh surface, turning each ripple into silver shards. She swallowed hard and stepped forward. Her feet slipped into cold mud. The compass glowed softly at her waist, its needle locked toward the inlet's far shore where Owen's map had marked the X. It pulled her, irresistible, like gravity not of this world. Each step brought her deeper. Thick reeds brushing her legs, marsh frogs croaking far behind. The air smelled of earth and decay. Breathing shallow, Harper advanced until the incoming channel opened fully before her. 2 minutes before the time on the watch, she sat on a half-submerged log, shoulders tense, holding Owen's watch and the folded map. Arfa a.m. She tapped the watch face. Nothing moved. Around her, silence pressed heavy. Thena splashed behind her. She whipped around. A figure emerged between the reeds. Tall. Silent. Harper froze. The figure stepped into moonlight. Harper's breath caught. It was Owen. Or a man exactly like him, same height, same mobile smile, same solemn blue eyes. "I knew you'd come," he said softly. His voice trembled, echoing memories. "You followed the compass." She blinked, heart pounding. "Owen, is that really you?" He moved closer, tipping back his damp hair. "It's me. I promised I'd be here. Why did you think I let my watch out in the lake for you to find?" Harper's vision blurred. She reached out. "How, we thought. We thought you were gone." He paused, voice gentle. "I was lost here in this place. I heard whispers, felt them guiding me deeper, but I was scared. So I left signs for you. You believed." He stepped into shallows, water lapped over his boots. The swamp reflected moonlight off his face. Harper shook her head. "Why Owen? Why the marsh?" He smiled sadly. "This place remembers. You had to come." Her emotions wrenched, relief, fear, the ache of questions. "What happened? Who helped you?" He turned and pointed toward the reeds. "They left me. In here when it called. I found others, but they didn't believe. They ran. But then I learned." He knelt and scooped water into his hand. The surface rippled in slow motion. "You see? The lake itself. The marsh. The forest, they think. They feel. They choose." Harper's chest tightened. "You're telling me the land is alive?" Owen nodded, face glinting in moonlight. "Alive. And it chose me. But it needed you too. I set the watch and journal not to trap you but to tell you. I'm still here, and I need help." Harper swallowed. She looked to the marsh and sky, mind buzzing. "I'm here now," she whispered. "You're not alone." Owen let her hand touch his. The water spread across their joined hands, rippling outward into silver. Above, reed frogs hushed. The marsh air pulsed beneath the world and between breaths a voice that carried a single truth. "You're not alone." Harper and Owen stood in the marsh, moonlight dancing over the reeds and rippling water. Their hands remained entwined, but tension lay heavy in their shared silence. "Owen," she whispered, "how long have you been here?" He looked up at the cloud-hidden moon. "Since I disappeared. 5 nights. In the marsh. I felt its silver lake calling me. I followed the whispers under the water. The forest. Every night it spoke, until it learned my name." Harper's heart trembled. "It spoke to you?" He nodded, voice low. "At first I thought I was going mad. I heard my name, felt image-sold memories, fragments of people who drowned, families of decades past. They were imprints living memory inside the water." He pointed toward the lake. "Look." Harper squinted, lining up a broken branch halfway into the water. When the moonlight hit it just so, the reflection on the surface fluttered, morphing into shapes. A family photo, laughter on the dock, her and her mother. "It shows me. he said softly. So I recorded it. That's why I kept the journal, the map, the watch-all breadcrumbs. She reached up, wiping a tear. You left me the story so I could finish it. He gave a small smile. But I can't do this alone. Harper squeezed his hand. We'll do it together. They settled on a nearby log. Owen crouched, flipping the watch open. Harper took out the compass and journal. The watch ticked 2 or 3 time matters here. Let's record it, she said. She had grabbed her phone in the cabin still working. She filmed the lake's surface, the flickering images, their reflections weaving into water and memory. Owen whispered incantations phrases he'd scribbled in the journal. Silver depths, recall us, speak in wave and whisper, let memory breathe. He spoke softly, hesitated, then smiled. The lake's surface flickered Maureen image of their mother smiling, hands extended. They watched with held breaths. It is feeding off memory, desire, sorrow, Harper realized. She felt tears well as the forest resonated around them. But the light shifted. What had been peaceful became urgent ripples expanded. Wind kicked up. Reeds rustled violently. Harper caught Owen's arm. It's changing, he nodded, voice tense. Too much emotion, it panics. The marsh's glow intensified. A high-pitched ringing filled the air. Both covered their ears. The water glowed under moonlight as if agitated. Harper dropped the phone. She moved to steady Owen, who stumbled backward. A squeal like metal scraping bone echoed through trees. They're coming, Owen gasped. Came for me and, now they'll come for both of us. Harper hugged him fiercely. Who? Owen shook his head. Don't know names. They're tied to the lake's power secret watchers. They called themselves caretakers, but they hate what lives here. The earth shuddered. A wave surged over their boots, sending them skidding. Screams echoed not theirs but from the water, from the forest. Harper grabbed Owen's hand. We need to move now. They backed up the reeds. The forest's cry intensified, but it guided them. A corridor through snapping branches leading to a more solid path toward the cabin. In the darkness, they ran compass guiding them. The watch glowed 2:05 as they reached shelter, gasping. At the cabin door, Harper spun. We survived, but they know. Owen looked at the marsh as it calmed with them gone. Yes, but it saved us. Harper closed the door behind them and collapsed against the wood, chest tight. It's alive, she said shakily. And we're part of it, Owen whispered. But we're never alone. Harper unlocked the front door of the Vaughn cottage just before dawn. The air was heavy, charged from the marsh. Snow had fallen overnight, blanketing the yard with silent white. She and Owen wet, tired, alive crossed the threshold together. Neither spoke. Inside, she collapsed on the couch. He went straight to the kitchen to start the kettle. The hiss of boiling water in the morning calm felt like defiance. Owen looked at Harper. We have evidence, video, sound. But do we tell anyone? Harper stared out the window. The street was empty, frost lining the driveway and footprints from their return. We tried 10 years ago, she said softly. No one believed us. They said it was grief, imagination. Owen held out the compass. Its needle spun and then stuck it north. We have more now. We can show the marsh's voice. Harper nodded slowly. But we need someone to believe. Someone who won't call the police first. Their eyes matanned settled on his hand, the compass. It hummed with quiet purpose. Harper grabbed her phone from the table. They reviewed the short video. Reeds bending in a pattern. Flickers of images on water. Owen speaking incantations. Creepy. Surreal. Undeniably real. Owen watched. They'll call it doctored. I have an idea, Harper said. Remember Parker, the ex-sheriff who stayed after the case? He never believed it was a drowning. Owen nodded. He said shadows moved too fast that night. Harper dialed. Her hands trembled. After 3 rings, Harper Vaughn, came the hoarse voice of the retired sheriff. Sheriff Parker, she said, voice steady. I need your help. Moments later, an hour later, they stood in front of the station office with paperwork and her phone on the table. Parker, older, hunched, stared at the footage. He watched the reeds shift. He watched Owen's face, caught in moonlight. He watched the waters flicker. Then he closed the phone, leaning back. Harper? Owen? You two actually found something, he said finally, voice low. But there's someone else watching. Harper and Owen exchanged a look. Parker continued. I've kept quiet, but I have my reasons. Last month, I found a motion sensor camera near the marsh's edge. Footage was wiped clean except for one frame, someone in a dark coat standing just past your tree carvings. Harper felt a jolt. They're here now? Parker nodded. They're protecting the marsh or hunting it. Either way, they're keeping track. Owen pressed the compass. We need to go back. Understand it, but carefully. Parker sighed. I'll help you, no badge involved, just old tracking instincts. But you'll need more. Harper held Owen's hand. We'll find allies. The retired sheriff slipped them a weathered radio. Stay close. Call me if you're in trouble. They stepped outside the station. The sun was creeping over distant hills. Their reflections stretched long across the road shadows, watching them back. Owen touched Harper's hand. We're not running anymore. Harper nodded. We're going deeper. Snow fell again that morning, quieting the world as Harper, Owen, and Sheriff Parker approached the marsh trailhead. Their footprints marked a single line that stretched from the station to the forest edge. Harper carried her phone, now in a waterproof case. Owen had the compass and journal. Parker held an old walkie-talkie and a scoped flashlight. They moved slowly, speaking in whispers. Stay together, Parker reminded. If it's watching, it watches water. But if we use sound on land, we bait it. They reached the clearing along the marsh. Reed stalks pierced the low snow layer. Frost hugged the circle's stone marker. Harper's heart pounded, remembering the last time. Waters singing and that unearthly scream. She moved forward, kneeling by the marker. Owen laid down 2 small infrared sensor sones pointing toward the tree line. Another pointed at the water. They'd connect to Parker's walkie-talkie with a buzzer. Harper glanced at him. He nodded. Ready? She whispered. Owen checked his phone. 7:45 morning. Let's bait it. He removed a small speaker, a modified Bluetooth unit, and placed it beside the stone. He turned it on, hitting play. A soft loop of Reed whispering, animal calls, and distant heartbeat pulses with Owen's recitation of the water incantation at the center. They stepped back. The speaker crackled, then fell silent. They waited. Minutes passed. Thin a light breeze. Reed stalks bent together as though bowing. A soft click on the buzzer. The water sensor. Parker whispered, It's here. Harper gripped her phone. Owen checked the compass. Needles spinning faster than ever. Suddenly, the speaker looped loud. The water recording was feeding back through itself. The reeds erupted in forced shimmer. Snow sprayed sideways. Sheriff Parker switched off the speaker. Too loud, he hissed. We need it confused. At that moment, a shape moved across the marsh, a pale figure stepping into view. Harper gasped, but Parker raised his hand. The figure stopped. Tall, cloaked in dark waterproof gear, face hidden. Owen swallowed. Who? The stranger raised one arm, and the whispering intensified, linear waves pulsing like strobe lights. Then the figure held out a single hand, palm up, covering wedding and engagement rings. Harper and Owen's a thin band. Shock raced across their faces. The stranger's arm trembled. A voice like layered echo reached them all. Your family, your bond, the lake knows. Harper took a step forward. I don't recognize you. The figure didn't respond. Instead, they took a slow step forward, and the reeds bent as they passed. A quiet bow of recognition. Sheriff Parker raised his flashlight and signaled timidly. We're not here to hurt you. The figure nodded once and touched the stone marker. In response, ice cracked in the water, no longer mirror-like but moving, churning. The stranger turned slowly, pointing with a gloved finger toward the water. Harper saw it then, symbols floating just beneath the water's surface, like glowing algae arranged in shapes O and H, surrounded by circles, triangles, pine-like branches. The stranger whispered, voice layered in echoes. Harper. Owen. We protect what remembers you. Harper's chest constricted. You know us? They nodded. The echoing voice continued. We were guardians of the forgotten. The lake chose your brother. It called him into memory, into oath. You too, Harper exhaled. What do you want from us? The stranger glanced at Parker's light, then back. To weave your memories into water, to carry your oath forward, your bond into the lake's memory. Owen stepped forward. We want only to understand, to protect. We need your help. The guardian cocked their head. The reeds stilled. Water stilled. Finally, the figure bowed once. A gesture of acceptance. Sheriff Parker exhaled. Harper felt her heart soften. The lake, the guardian, Owen's compass flashed true north. They took cautious steps into the marsh, united by oath, watched by waters that remembered, and the snow began to swirl again, whispering the promise of a new beginning. Snow had stopped, leaving a pale silence over the marsh. Harper, Owen, Parker, and the cloaked guardian stood knee-deep in icy water, eyes tracing the glowing symbols beneath the surface. Symbol-like algae pulsed softly. O-H. Crescents. Pine branch forms that mirrored the carvings Owen had made years ago. The guardian lowered their arm, voice echoing low. Every name, every oath, is a seed planted here. You carry water's memory. Harper exhaled, breath fogging in the chill air. You say we have a purpose, but what exactly? She asked. The guardian didn't answer immediately. Instead, they knelt, trailing a gloved hand along the water's edge. Ripples formed, shifting the symbols. Your bond, your forgiveness shields what has forgotten itself, they said. The lake remembers joy and loss. It needs anchors. Owen looked at Harper, heart pounding. She squeezed his hand. What must we do? He asked. The guardian straightened, voice firm. Share your memories. Tonight. By the hearth. Let the lake carry them across its depth. Sheriff Parker glanced at them, eyes steady. How do we? By speaking? By showing the footage? The guardian nodded slowly. By remembering. By connecting. Give voice to what happened. Harper glanced at her brother's pale face. We did. We showed your footage. We told Sheriff Parker. The guardian's hooded face was inscrutable, but their tone wasn't reproachful. You awakened the lake. Now it seeks more. Tonight you go deeper. They escorted Harvey and Owen back toward the shore. Snow drifted in scattered curtains, illuminated in the weak daylight. Underfoot, the marsh was silent, benevolent. By the cabin, they changed into dry clothes. Inside, burning a small fire, they set up. Owen's journal open, the guardian's cloak draped near the hearth, the compass and watch on a wooden table. Harper drew a notebook and pen. Parker closed the cabin door, scanning the woods as wind rattled shutters. The guardian stepped forward, their voice calm. Speak your first memory, name it, anchor it. Harper swallowed. She placed the compass on the table. My earliest memory with Owen is from a summer afternoon, 8 years old. We sat on this very dock, arms swinging, watching minnows dart beneath the boards. Owen told me he wanted to build a boat one day. I remember his laughter. She paused, tears in her eyes. The compass needle quivered. Symbols glowed behind her in the water. Next, Owen spoke. I remember the night of my birthday, part your family photo, in front of strings of lights, my cake. I felt the happiest I ever will. And then the power went out. It was sudden, strange. I remember thinking it was the lake. I felt called. The guardian listened. It remembers. Sheriff Parker cleared his throat. I'll go next. He closed his eyes. My memory is of the search after the disappearance. Standing on that dock, calling for Owen. My flashlight beam scanning fog and water. I heard nothing. But I saw something dark shape in the mist before it vanished. I never told anyone. I thought it was guilt. They were silent. Then the guardian spoke. The lake accepts your word. It will share now. Outside, the marsh responded. Through frosted windows, flakes of snow fell in slow spirals. The water beyond the dock glowed steadily, no storm, no tremor, just a deep pulse, rhythmic, like a heartbeat. Harper looked at Owen. It's calming. He nodded. The guardian placed a hand on the compass. Good. Continue this every night. Let memory feed the water. Let it remember itself. The fire crackled. The cabin glowed, warmed by shared memory. Harper leaned forward. And the watchers? You said there are others. The guardian turned, hooded face just visible in firelight. They come. They fear your truth. They hunt not water but power. You must be ready. They turned and drifted toward the window, peering into night. The marsh beyond waited, now peaceful, now a promise. Night had deepened when they began again. A soft wind drifted through the open window, carrying the smell of wet reeds and distant earth. The marsh beyond the dock now pulsed gently like a beating heart under moonlight. Harper lit an oil lamp on the rough-hewn table. Owen placed his watch beside the compass. Sheriff Parker stood sentinel by the door, his flashlight at the ready. The guardian remained silent in the corner, cloak weaving shadows into the room. They took turns. Harper spoke first tonight, voice steady. I remember when Owen fell into the creek trying to rescue my doll. I'll never forget the sound, that panic in the water, the sudden calm when he found the doll. That day, I realized love meant sacrifice. The lamp flickered. The water's glow brightened. A ripple spread through the marsh. Owen exhaled, tears shining in his eyes. When it was Owen's turn, I remember hearing something on the night I disappeared, footsteps in the forest, not mine. I remember thinking I wasn't alone. I remember the fear and then the calm when I closed my eyes and let the lake guide me. The compass on the table spun slight arcs and settled true north. The watch chimed softly at 2:15 p.m., though it wasn't its design to chime. Sheriff Parker cleared his throat. His voice was low. I remember the call that night. I found your mother crying on the dock. I remember I didn't call it into the state, because I thought if I did, nothing would stop the lake from swallowing the memory whole. Silence followed. The marsh remained steady, affirming their words. Then a sound, distant but clear. A mechanical click like a camera shutter. Their shoulders tensed. Harper looked toward the door. The Guardian stepped forward. They witness. They seek to capture memory and use it. The Watchers take what is shared, they record it. Harper whispered, "Who are they?" The Guardian shook their heads slowly. Not one individual, they come in groups. They think this is a phenomenon to exploit. They want your experiences to patent, to sell, to weaponize. Owen shivered. We need protection. Sheriff Parker tapped the radio on his belt. Station to base. We need patrols along the marsh perimeter. 2 cars. Now. Outside, the wind rose in response. The marsh's heartbeat slowed, but tension rose. Inside, Harper and Owen exchanged anguished looks. The Guardian placed a hand on Parker's shoulder. Their voice was firm. They tried last night. They're here. Someone signed in at the old boat ramp earlier. 2 people. Parker cursed under his breath. He pulled out a notebook. Description? The Guardian's face flickered into lamplight eyes sharp. Dark jackets. No insignia. They measured the dock, then vanished into reeds. Harper clenched her fists. They're already mapping it. Owen leaned over the table. We must protect the memory. We must show the world that this isn't something to own. The lamp flickered. A breeze passed, rifling pages of the journal, resting on a drawing across 2 pages. The lake, the dock, and a ring of Symbolsan invocation circle. This, the Guardian said, voice low, is our shield. They moved, tracing lines in the air above the journal. Faint glyphs glowed on the tabletop, shimmering. The marsh outside pulsed again, as if affirming. Walk the circle, the Guardian instructed. Speak your names together. Harper and Owen stood at opposite ends. They spoke in unison. Harper, Owen. This is ours, not yours to take. They closed their eyes. The marsh's pulse intensified. Wilson County's moon faded behind clouds, a flash at the window. Parker swung the lamp and saw a dark shape retreating into the night. He raised his radio. Contact. Movement west. Harper looked at the Guardian. Their voice, soft yet determined. Tonight we guard. Tomorrow we show the circle to the others. We form the keepers. Owen reached for Harper, fear and resolve in his eyes. Harper nodded, voice firm. We do this together. And in the cabin, by the water's edge, they stood as sentinels of memory guarding the lake's heart, while the Watchers lurked in silence outside. Dawn broke in pale blue over Silver Lake. The cabin's warmth, once comforting, now felt tight with purpose. Harper, Owen, Sheriff Parker, and the Guardian, who introduced themselves as Rowan, sat around the rough-hewn table, still lit by the lamp that had burned all night. They passed around hot coffee, black, strong, necessary. Owen rubbed his hands together, eyes steady. We need more voices, he said. More memories. We need to grow the circle. Harper nodded. Mia and Claire Thay lost their brother last summer. They've seen strange lights on the lake. She looked at Parker. Do you think they'll join? Sheriff Parker sighed, then nodded. They already came to the station. They won't refuse a chance to help. Rowan cloak folded neatly on their chair spoke softly. Each voice anchors the memory stronger. Each ritual brings more protection. But with more voices, the Watchers watch harder. Harper swallowed. We need a plan. Parker leaned forward. Tonight, we gather at the dock. They can bring their memories. We'll anchor them all, Rowan added. Then the lake will recognize more than one bond. The Watchers will face a living shield. Owen turned to Rowan. Can you teach us the full ritual? They nodded. You'll need a circle of salt and woodpine boughs from the canopy. Each keeper stands at a landmark. Compass, watch, journal, stone marker. We speak, we release, we bind. Harper and Owen exchanged glance shope mixed with fear. Who will join? Harper asked. Parker cleared his throat. Mia Campbell's twin, lost last summer. Claire, she felt the lake speak during her firefly vigil. And my partner, Isaac's seen the shimmer near your dock. Owen grinned. Then we're 6. Enough for the lake to see us as more than siblings. Rowan's voice sharpened. More than witnesses. Keepers. They agreed to meet at dusk by the pier. Harper set her phone to record, but only as documentation, not proof to outsiders. Tonight was about memory, not media. As Rowan stood, they looked at each member, careful and calm. Tonight, you stand as the lake's memory. Trust I tanned each other. They stepped outside into the crisp air. Snow softened their footsteps. Harper inhaled determined, resolute, unafraid. They'd built their circle in the dark. Now, under moonlight and mist, they'd reinforce I tanned, show the watchers that Silver Lake belonged to those who remembered. The evening air hung silent as Harper, Owen, Mia, Claire, Sheriff Parker and Rowan gathered on the dock. Pine boughs twisted with salt marked each station: compass, watch, journal, stone, lamp, and recorder. Distant shapes wove figures watched from the reeds. Harper placed her hand on the compass stand. It hummed. Frost glistened on the water's surface. Rowan's voice carried as they laid the rules. Speak truth, anchor memory, share your bond, bind protection. One by one, each keeper stepped forward, voice steady in the hush. Harper, eyes shining. I remember summer laughter, our family's playful secrets on this dock. Owen, I remember fear, the moment I drowned in light and the moment the lake held me. Mia, I remember my sister's name, whispered by fireflies and silver waves. Claire, I remember the night the lights glowed red on the water like a heartbeat calling me. Sheriff Parker, I remember guilt and the resolve to protect this secret. Rowan, I remember old oaths and the cost of forgetting. Symbols glowed beneath the water. The lake pulsed in time with their voices. The watchers stepped forward, two dark coats, eyes sheathed by fear. They raised cameras. One aimed a phone. Claire snapped at them. Leave. This is not yours to take. The watchers froze. Then one pulled back. The other dropped the phone. Harper stepped toward them. You can't own memory. The watchers exchanged uneasy glances. One backed away into the reeds. As they retreated, the lake brightened. Ripples rose, spiraling toward the dock. It held their echo voices, grief, bonsall binding into a living imprint. The compass spun and settled. The watch chimed. The journal's pages fluttered in breeze. Harper choked back tears. It's alive. Rowan nodded. The watchers know, now they fear it. Owen placed his hand on Harper's. We did this together. Soft snow fell. The keepers held hands, forming a human ring. The lake glowed beneath like a heartbeat, warmth radiating up through frozen planks. As dawn crept, the sixth voice aloft, echoing, joined theirs. You are mine. Not spoken by any of them but by the lake itself. A promise. It pulsed again as the watchers turned away, the reeds closing behind them. Epilogue. Echoes in silver light. Days later, Silver Lake woke anew. News stories spoke of shimmering light stories, called them murmurs of memory, but only the keepers knew the truth, that the lake had learned their voices, sealed their bonds, and protected its story. Harper and Owen returned to the dock at sunrise, compass and watch in hand. Pine boughs remained in place. A single symbol etched on wood and stone glowed faintly. O.H. They nodded to each other. Time to prepare for whatever comes next, Harper said. Owen smiled. Together. The wind stirred the pines gently. Silver Lake whispered, We remember.